Hi, my name is Robert Malone. I'm a physician scientist. I'm the original discoverer of mRNA vaccines.
In late 1987, Robert Malone, in a landmark experiment, mixed strands of messenger RNA with droplets of fat. Human cells bathed in this stew absorbed the mRNA and began producing proteins from it. This, however, was a result of the hard work he had put in right from 1978. Malone realized the far-reaching impact this discovery had in medicine, but the technology to harness its potential at the time was still not available. In the early 90s, Merck, the world's largest vaccine manufacturer at the time, showed interest in using this technology to produce an influenza vaccine. However, the RNA was found to be unstable. Fast forward to the early 2000s. German companies BioNTech and CureVac showed interest in developing the RNA technology. CureVac was the first company to inject mRNA into mice to elicit an immune response. These two were later joined in 2006 by Moderna in the RNA vaccine race. It was not until 2012 though, until the discovery of the lipid nanoparticle, that the mRNA vaccine tech became actually viable. Fast forward to the pandemic. Moderna was the first one out of the blocks in starting to develop an mRNA vaccine to COVID. They were closely followed by Pfizer in March 2020. Here, before we get into the deceit these vaccine companies can play, an anecdotal fact. A German news agency has compiled a list of 75 European athletes who have had heart attacks or took seriously ill after the vaccine. They, however, are not attributing the heart attacks to the vaccine directly. Also, they haven't mentioned which vaccine. I myself cannot vouch for the veracity of this information, but just putting it out there. I'm giving you links to this data down in the description below this video, as usual. Coming specifically to my concerns about the Pfizer vaccine. In an investigation by the British Medical Journal, a regional director for the Ventavia Research Group, Brooke Jackson, spilled the beans saying that, and I quote, "The company falsified data, unblinded patients, employed inadequately trained vaccinators, and was slow to follow up on the adverse events reported in Pfizer's pivotal phase 3 trial. Staff who conducted quality control checks were overwhelmed by the volume of problems they were finding." Ventavia Research Group is a company based in Texas and was subcontracted for Pfizer to run their clinical trials. Brooke Jackson has had an experience as a regional director in her field of expertise for 15 years before joining the Ventavia Group, for a total of 2 weeks. Why for 2 weeks? I will explain to you a little bit later in this video. So just to reiterate so that you can reflect on its repercussions. It was found that the clinical trials of the Pfizer COVID vaccine data was falsified. Adverse events were not addressed. Staff employed were not skilled enough, and there were compromises in the data collection. Jackson brought to the notice of her superiors at Ventavia multiple times of poor laboratory management, patient safety concerns, and data integrity issues. She took multiple photos with a phone which showed needles discarded in a plastic biohazard bag instead of the sharps container box. Another photo showed the vaccine packaging materials with the trial participants' names and identification numbers written on them and left out in the open, potentially unblinding participants. The clinical trial for the Pfizer vaccine, the third phase, was a double-blinded trial wherein the participants nor the researchers knew which treatment or intervention the participants are receiving until the trial is over. This makes the results of the study less likely to be biased. Brooke then approached the US FDA with the findings and was thereafter fired by the Ventavia Group. She provided the British Medical Journal with dozens of internal company documents, photos, audio recordings, and emails as proof. These are, of course, as of now not available in the public domain, probably due to the sensitivity of the material. What is more troubling is that the Ventavia was also responsible for 4 other clinical trials for Pfizer. And listen to this. 3 of these trials were for the Pfizer COVID vaccine in children and young adults, pregnant women, and a booster dose. The 4th was an RSV vaccine. These details were corroborated by ICON, a contract research organization, and a couple of employees of Ventavia who remain anonymous for the fear of losing their job. They state in a nutshell that the trials were conducted haphazardly and hurriedly. There was a big backlog of unaddressed serious side effects. It is plenty evident until now that something is quite awry with the clinical trials for the Pfizer COVID vaccine. So the 2 questions which arise in my mind are, Did Pfizer actually throw protocol into the wind in a hurry to get the vaccine out so that they could hit profits? Or was there a more sinister plot? And if so, why? What is even more troubling is that it is the same now not reputable company which ran clinical trials for the children and pregnant women. In my mind, personally, I cannot find any logical reasoning as it is why children should be vaccinated if they are not severely comorbid. Thinking of possible solutions from the top of my head, I feel that the Pfizer vaccine should be suspended at least temporarily until they prove the credibility of their data. To add to this, the vaccine is definitely not suitable for use in children. Remember earlier we spoke about how difficult it was to perfect an mRNA vaccine? We are still early in the mRNA vaccine technology. So why put the young ones at risk with a vaccine when they are not at risk from severe disease or from COVID in the first place? Do let me know your views down in the comments. Subscribe, like, watch these next. Signing out, Dr. Rohan Fonseca.